Okay, so it's another week. I've been really in the flow of things, but I'm gonna jump straight into it. Let me change the blinds angle so it wouldn't be too annoying. That's not better yet. There you go. That's much better lighting. So, what I'm starting to do is every time I do one of these episodes, I start from lesson one and I try to clear maybe 20 to 25 lessons I've learned from that week. But one thing I'm going to start doing is I'm going to not start from one, but start from the number we last left off. So we're currently at lesson 179. So that's pretty epic. And lesson 179 is do things that stack and increase. Sort of um, don't do things that forces you or you end up starting at zero each week. So I'm now doing these lessons every week. The number increases. This is, I don't know, episode lesson 14, 15, and we're on, less the number less the point 179. So I think that's something I'm gonna start doing. Um, and yeah, I think it's just much, much better. Like it'll be cool how in like a year's time, 2 years' time, we'll be at like less than 1,000. And each one I think is an actual point, an actual lesson. So like this point of 179, it's an actual lesson. Okay, lesson 180. I realized that my whole why has been stemmed from not being seen and being invisible when I was young. My dad being busy, and him never seeing me and him never giving me the attention I was looking for. My mum being very stressed, looking after three kids, single mother, two jobs. She just didn't, as much as she loved me, she just didn't have the capacity to see me. In primary school, high school, I was always invisible. I was always wanting to be seen by like an older brother, an older peer. Hence, one of my strong whys has been becoming the older brother that I wished for. And what that older brother version of me really does is I really try to make other people feel seen. Um, Look out for them, mentally have their back, make sure they feel seen. And I think this was a pretty big realization I had. And I learned that my my why really stemmed from my childhood. I think that's something that I learned from Dennis Scholl, someone I had on my podcast as a therapist. She talked about how a lot of your decisions that you're making now is stemmed from your childhood from ages 0 to 10. And that's what catalyzed this lesson. Lesson 181. Being seen and complimented by others is temporary. That's very true. I crave calling my friends. I crave chatting with the people that I know will give me compliments as I give them compliments. But that is unsustainable and temporary. What you want to do is you want to learn to compliment yourself, learn to sort of be kind to yourself. Because once you learn that skill, you'll be able to basically, I guess, be receive and be seen forever because you can do it for yourself. So I'm learning that the compliments, the affirmation, being seen from friends and other people, it's temporary and it's not sustainable because they're trying to be seen as well and they have their own world and their own set of problems. Lesson 182. I have a craving to find a partner, a soulmate that is amazing. I have zero craving to be with someone who's 40, 50, 60, 70% amazing. And I feel like most people just crave being in a relationship, crave being with someone, so they will settle for 40% compatibility. But I have zero craving for that. Like I'd rather be on my own. So I have a huge craving and want for someone just that's amazing. Lesson 183. If you struggle or can't find the words to reply to a message, just react. Leave a react on the message or leave them like a heart emoji or like a sort of like a hands heart emoji or like a star emoji. Because sometimes I find myself forcing a reply because I want to make sure the person gets a response because it's nice to get a response. But if you're forcing it, the response isn't going to be that good. An emoji will probably do a better job. Lesson 184. People don't change. They grow up and mature, but their essence is usually the same. So if someone is, say, cheap, when they grow up, they'll probably be more mature about it, but they'll still probably pay things on the dot. Um, they'll probably be hesitant to eat or go and do something above their means. And it sort of the essence stays, but they mature about how they go about it. So what I'm learning is that people don't change. So if someone's insecure, someone's egotistical, someone thinks they're better than others, usually there's a good chance that if you see them in 10 years, 95% of the time, that's going to be constant, but you're just going to see a more mature version of that constant. Yeah. Lesson 185. Don't trust cheap people. They aren't real G's. Yeah. Yeah, if someone's cheap, I don't know if you don't trust them, but like keep at like arm's length because being cheap is definitely something that is contagious. If someone is being cheap, you are sort of going to reciprocate that cheapness and you'll see yourself subconsciously doing the same for other people. So I guess you don't want to spend time with cheap people because it's contagious. I don't know about the trust thing. I think maybe it's not a trust issue, it's more of like a contagious issue. You don't want to have that trait bleed into you. And it's also a mindset thing. Cheap people have a certain mindset, a mindset of um, the opposite of abundance, of obscurity, of obscenity. I don't know the right word, but that is also very contagious. But I think it's okay to trust cheap people as I'm now thinking and breaking down this lesson. Lesson 186. This is like a journey that I find most entrepreneurs go through. Everyone goes through the blissful quit their job for that first year of entrepreneurship. It's good, it's blissful, it's working, so they quit their job. Then year 2 and 3 gets very hard. But you sort of break through that hard. Like, let me think, why does year 2 and 3 get hard? Because you're now shown that hey, it wasn't all green grass and sunshine. It was harder than you thought. That sort of initial sprint and momentum you had is dying out and you're trying to figure it out. But you sort of break through for year 4 and 5. So year 4 or 5, you break through because now you know how to recreate that success and that initial momentum you created in the first year. But then year 6 and 7 gets really hard because now you're getting more consistent success. You're very cocky. You're like, man, I recreated, I for the second time, I've been able to recreate that sort of initial traction, and you get a bit cocky. You find that you're not happy. You're no longer creative because now you're just recreating and following trends and sort of just doing what works. And you don't have something that's reliable yet. And you're trying to build something that's more reliable. You're trying to figure out your why. You're trying to figure out your purpose. And that's sort of why year 6 and 7 is very, very hard. And I think those that can break through, they'll probably have the next, I don't know how many years, but the next few years will be fruitful. And I think this is a common trajectory most people go through. And some people, like the hard years are longer than others. The good years are longer than others. But I feel like this is a general trajectory that I've personally also went through. And then when telling and talking to another friend, she was like, it's funny that you mentioned this 7 year thing because a lot of athletes and artists they go through the exact same thing. The seventh year is the hardest year. It's the make or break year. So I'm definitely feeling and seeing that. I'm gonna pause, quickly hang some laundry before the sun goes out, and then we'll jump into the next lesson. So let me pause this. All right, so I'm back. Um, Lesson 187. I noticed that when I call people, they usually don't have the mental headspace slash capacity to pause what they're doing and sort of be present on that call with me. Whereas on the other way around, most people can call me and I could pause what I'm doing and give them my full attention just because I have that mental capacity to do so. So as a result, I'm gonna stop calling people and I'll be focused more on picking up calls. Lesson 188. The more people you follow online, the larger you're spreading your life force. You're sort of spreading it more thin. Like, let's say you follow 50 people online versus following 200 people online. Now you're spreading your life force thinner. Like, I'd rather be active with 100 people I follow versus just sort of watching on the sideline 400 people I follow. Now it's easier said than done because you don't want to sort of hurt relationships, break ties. Um, a easy solution is to sort of just mute everyone. But there's also that, like, if you're still following someone, like, I'm a big believer of energy, and social media has created a way for people to spread their energy thin. You know, back in the days, you would follow a celebrity. You'd see them on the news, you'll see them on TV, and you're sort of giving them a bit of your energy. And there wasn't that many celebrities to follow. And other than that, you're just sort of giving your energy to your family and friends in your community. Nowadays, you can follow people all over the world. You can follow thousands of people. And I think subconsciously and spiritually, you're being sort of torn up and spread thin. There's obviously, I don't know the research, there's probably no research to back this, but it's just sort of like a gut feeling that, hey, like if you are following 400 people, it's sort of like following 400 email lists, 400 different magazines, um, knowing 400 people in your local community, and getting like being able to see what the 400 people in your community are doing. Like it's not healthy. Like I need to solve this problem. Like I want to mass unfollow everyone, but there's like a lot of people that, you know, like everyone I follow sort of follows me back and I might not talk to them now, if not ever. Well, I have a rule where if I don't follow someone, if we haven't had a message in the last 5 years, I unfollow them. Um, but yeah, it's definitely something I need to personally figure out and sort of take that leap. Like I do feel like I might be way more happy if I followed zero accounts on my Instagram. I wouldn't be surprised if like a weight is lifted. Oh man, now I'm thinking like, man, I should do it. Ah, I know if I do it, everyone's gonna unfollow me and that's gonna hurt. And there's like people that I want to like I want for them to keep following me. But then at the same time I want to follow them. Yeah, it's tough. Like I either wanna unfollow everyone or continue following everyone. I don't want to do it in between and sort of just cut it in half and like follow only 100 people and cut out like 300 people. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I think I'll slowly unfollow more and more people over time. Lesson 189. There's a difference from being cheap versus being poor. Like I realized when I was growing up in high school, I couldn't like my mum, like literally all she could afford was giving me $2 a fortnight. Every 2 weeks she gave me $2. So in a term of 10 weeks, you get $10. And then that means maybe once a week I could soft serve ice creams back then were like 30 cent. So that means, you could get three soft serves a week. You can save up and get maybe one small fries a week at McDonald's. And, people, friends definitely notice that. Not friends, but peers, classmates. And like they probably would have thought I was stingy and cheap, but I was just poor. Like now that I have more money, I'm definitely more generous. And then I was questioning, hey, like with the previous point of like, hey, people don't change, people just mature. So like if I was stingy then, how come I'm still not stingy now? And it's because I was never stingy, I was poor. And there's a difference from being poor and cheap. So that was a realization. That was a lesson. Lesson 190. Your friends are living their own lives and winning. Okay, I got this point. So I was watching The Walking Dead, and there's sort of like a few leaders, main characters like Rick, Michonne, Daryl, Glenn, Abraham. And these guys are sort of each leaders in their own right. And 90% of the time, they're off on their own adventures, doing their own thing. And they sort of bring back to the community what they've scavenged in the wild and what they sort of want. So everyone brings something back to each other. And in the rare occasions where it is needed for everyone to be together, everyone comes together. And we're sort of being taught and romanticized the fact that, hey, you want a group of friends where everyone's together all the time. But you don't realize it's more natural and ideal for like a Avengers type situation to happen where there's Iron Man, Ant-Man, Captain America's, Black Widow, um, Hawkeye. These guys are all living their own lives 99% of the time. And in 1% of rare instances do they come together, they bring together all their lessons and learnings, and they work together and they defeat the big villain at the time. So I'm realizing that, hey, like there's a parallel to that in my life where I have a lot of these satellite friends or these individual friends I'm trying to break these concepts, but I'll use them for lack of better wording. And they have their own group of friends and they have their own lives and they're all winning in their own right. And once in every while, we all come together and we have a blast. We all lift each other up. And that's what I'm starting to understand and realize. And maybe that's the plan that God and the universe has had for me this whole time. Maybe I'm not meant to have my own group of friends. I'm meant to be this sort of solo soldier that has gone through life and building myself up and becoming the best version I can so that when all these other wolf pack leader friends of mine come to me, I can help them with whatever they need. And when we do come together, I'll be like the Iron Man of or Captain America of the Avengers. So when the Avengers come together, even though they're all leaders and individuals in their own right and they all have their own teams and their own crew, when they all come together, there's, someone leading the Avengers. It's Iron Man, Captain America. And if you look at those people, like Iron Man doesn't really have his own squad, not really. Captain America sort of does, but I guess it's crazy because it's at a whole nother level. Like Ant-Man, Hawkeye, like they all don't have group of friends as well. They all don't have own teams. They're just all like it's like a layer above. It's like it's like 7 to 10 of me coming together. So like there's levels to this, I feel like. Um, and yeah, lesson 191. Everyone around me has this peaceful and calm lives. But the cost or the consequences of having a calm and chill, peaceful life is that you have a boring life. So there's a cost to everything. So the fact that my life is so chaotic, high stress, a lot of weight, a lot of pressure, looking after a lot of people, the cost of me having this type of life is I have a very interesting and fun life. So that's lesson 191. Lesson 192. As I've been bleeding out and things getting tougher and tougher, I remember getting to this point of like, man, I will not knee to the system. I'm going to do whatever it takes. So every asset I have, if need be, do it all on my own, if need be. Even if I lose it all and I have to get a job, I'll be working that job with the main intention of escaping the system and escaping that job. I will get a job to sustain me and make some money with the goal of like, how do I escape this system? Like, I will not kneel to this system that has created these golden handcuffs for everyone in society. I'm going to do whatever it takes to escape and make it on my own, as difficult as it may be. I feel like it's only getting harder and harder. So that's lesson 192. Lesson 193. I'm learning, like, I remember writing down all these random thoughts as I was sort of going through like a tough period. I wrote down, the world comes from me. I'm the center of it. Deep down inside me, there's a child that just wants to be seen. At the same time, there's a God slash hero dormant until I'm ready to unlock it. All my feelings are real. They're signals that you should be thankful for because the feelings act as a guide for me through life. I need to listen to my emotions, listen to my inner God as it wants me to win. The evils in this world has created mass amounts of dopamine to distract you from listening to yourself. TikTok, like there's people don't have opportunities to be bored anymore. Like boredom and twiddling your thumbs is no longer a thing. Like what that was basically meditation, and that is now lost. The inner God, your inner God helps you with hardships that you can grow. Actually, the inner God gives you hardships so that you can grow into the hero it knows that you can become. All there is yourself. So listen to it, cherish it, be thankful for it. It's there to help you, not hurt you. So that wasn't really a lesson, but that was just me just mind dumping a few thoughts as I was sort of going through a tough period. So that was lesson 193. And then that leads into lesson 194. There's a good chance, and I believe that everything is true. Everything from the universe wanting you to win, that God from above is there for you, but also the God from within has your back. But at the same time that you're on this journey all alone, and you're the only person that can look after yourself, you know, at the same time, there's an inner shadow you that is sort of giving you advice and has your back, but it's also healthy to lean on friends and other people and ask for help. But also sometimes all you need to do is just process and feel and acknowledge your feelings, and that itself is enough. And that itself is just as good as talking to God. But at the same time, you want to have faith in karma. Believe that everything happens for a reason, and there is this preordained destiny, and that when you go in the future, you'll be able to connect all the dots from the past. But at the same time, you simply just want to be present and realize how grateful you are, and realize that the past and the future doesn't exist, and all that exists is the eternal present, the eternal now. It's everything. You want to understand that life is this tough, unfair battle of a grind that you need to push through. But at the same time, life is a reflection of your thoughts and your inner feelings. Life is only hard if you make it hard. So all these contradicting thoughts, and me recently getting into Christianity and learning about that has sort of brought me to the current conclusion that, hey, everything is true, everything is correct. Lesson 195. This is a quote I heard. Sometimes when you're buried in a dark place, well, let me rephrase it. So, lesson 195, this is a quote. Sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you may have been buried, but actually you have been planted. Sort of makes me think of like you asked the universe to be strong. So the universe gave you a bunch of challenges to make you stronger. That's what it made me think. Lesson 196. Actions slash momentum slash doing creates more energy than resting. So when you're exhausted, down, going through a come down after like a rave, you may think that you need rest and that's the best way to recover. But I've found that by slowly moving, slowly doing, that creates way more energy. Lesson 197. I know that I've outgrown a relationship when I'm being told that I'm overthinking things. Because when you're told, hey man, you're overthinking things, it's another word, another way of saying, hey, I don't understand what you're saying. I can't relate with what you're saying. Therefore, I think you're probably overthinking things or I think you're crazy. That's a sign that you've sort of capped that relationship. Lesson 198. So I have a podcast. Other than this podcast, it's called The Flip Side. And I've been recently wanting to bring on younger female creators because we just had a bunch of guys on the podcast. I want to sort of balance out the demographic. So upon reaching out to 100 female creators, I've never had a boring person say yes. Now, I'm not saying that all people who say no are boring, but similarly, I've never had a boring guy or girl pick up my phone call when I give them a call, when I randomly just often call and check in on people. And I'm not saying all people that don't pick up my phone call are boring, but this leads me to believe that those people who are a bit boring, who don't think they'll be able to converse or hold a conversation with me, those are the ones that are most likely not going to pick up the phone. And it's a them issue, not me, that I'm learning. You know, people who are winners will pick up. Like when my mentors call me, I pick up straight away, even if I'm busy and I'm in the middle of something. And that's because, I'm me. And the same thing applies for people who pick up my phone call or call back or call me back. Lesson 199. So I was driving to a city and everyone was sitting in this middle lane. And the right lane was just open. And I was like, yeah, I felt that urge. Okay, there must be a reason why the right lane is empty and everyone's staying in the middle lane. Let me stay in the middle lane because that's what everyone else is doing. Like I had that mini thought in my mind. And I fought past that thought and I had the courage to jump into the right lane and go off on my own. And yes, there's a chance that this would have been a mistake and everyone's in the middle lane for a reason, and the right lane might end up going to a right only sort of situation where I was now stuck having to re-ask to get back into the middle lane. But that didn't happen. And I ended up skipping a bunch of traffic. And I guess the lesson is entrepreneurs, heroes are willing to take the path less taken. And there's a chance that because it's less taken, it might lead to a worse outcome. But they had the courage to push through despite that. And what they find out most of the time is that it was a way easier path. Lesson 200. Flakers are weaker people. It's hard and intimidating to show up when you don't know anyone. It's hard to get change and look prepared and go to the city for dinner. It's uncomfortable. You're going out of your comfort zone. You're having to talk and communicate, meet new people. So I understand why you would want to flake if you had a little flu or something popped up, because it's easier to flake. It's harder to show up. And I'm realizing that, yeah, like I feel like if you look at strong and weak people, I feel like strong people have a lower flake rate versus the weaker people. But I should, but because of that, I should see it as a positive. Now I know that flakers are just weaker people who are not as maybe adventurous or not adventurous or courageous as not adventurous or courageous as me. So yeah, so I think I should start using it as an indicator for these people. Lesson 201. I need to start rewiring my brain to look for positive in scenarios, not negatives. Everything can be seen in a positive light. For example, the exhaustion of me doing these lessons episode, man, it's a grind. Like I'm talking, I'm thinking, I'm putting my thought out there, and it's exhausting. I could focus on that, or I could focus on the fact that, hey, this is evergreen content. This is like I'm gonna hope like that I could look back. Like I'd wish that there is a 14-year-old Andy that did this, so I could see what was going through my mind and the lessons I was learning at 14. So I need to focus on the positives versus the negatives. Hey, one of the negatives, these get no views. These like no one are seeing this. Okay, what's the positive out of that? I'm uploading these onto YouTube for the future so that when things do pop up, there's going to be this backlog of like Andy lessons that you can get infinite clips from. So don't worry about the zero views now because you're doing this for fun. You're doing it documenting for yourself. It's a cherry on top if you get views, but that was never the intention. This is something that you wanted to document and save for yourself anyways. So I want to start rewiring my brain to see the positive things versus the negatives. Lesson 202. I'm starting to be at the stage where people can't help me. Even if they, even if I asked for help, they couldn't. And the people that could are in very similar scenarios as me, where they have their own set of problems and issues, and they're probably maxed out in their capacity. And I think that's okay. Like now that I know that I'm at this stage, I need to start focusing on myself and helping myself and learning how to heal myself. I think learning to be independent and looking after yourself, that's the answer I keep always coming back to. Lesson 203. When I'm grateful for my mentors, for their time, for their knowledge, for the dinner they wouldn't let me pay, the more gracious and thankful I am, the more they give. And that's the same with life. When you're grateful for the universe, for God, grateful for what you've been given, grateful for what you have, life will give you more. Lesson 100, lesson 204. I always get what I want. If I go out clubbing or go to a festival with the intention of making out with a girl, that so usually happens. If I had the intention of like, hey, I want to have a girlfriend, that would most likely happen. But that hasn't been my intention. Like, I don't want a girlfriend for the sake of having a girlfriend. Like, I want to meet a super cool person, a super cool girl that I really relate with, and we're on a very similar wavelength. And because that's what I want, I've avoided all distractions. If I did what everyone said, I'd be a different person and I'd be wasting time and going on a different path away from the current path of wanting to meet that soulmate. If I listened to everyone's advice, when that soulmate would come into my life, I would not be ready for that person. So the fact that I'm on the current trajectory where I have no urges for anything but that means that all that energy is being directed into just me growing and me getting to a point where when that soulmate comes, we'd both be perfect and ready for each other. Lesson 205. I think it's more valuable to be there for others when you're not there in person. I feel like that is more valuable than being for others when you're together. Like someone that checks in on my birthday, someone that checks in to see if I've ran out of money because I told them this month I'm gonna run out of money, or if they check in on say like a blood result, that blood test I was doing, and we're not in person, they sent me a message. I feel like that means much more than when they're saving all those things, and when we're in person, they make me feel seen in that 1 hour catch up, 2 hour catch up, and then they go ghost. I feel like the first one is way more meaningful because someone that's checking in on you or being there for you when they're not there in person means they're going out of their way. Because if you're there in person, all you can do is be there for the person because you're there in person. So I think if someone's there for you when you're not in person, that is something that's really good. Lesson 206. Given that I need an amazing person that can match my capacity, that is not only able to make me feel seen when we're together, but also make me feel seen when we're apart. This is a super duper rare person. And it's going to take me to continue ignoring every shiny object and pointless search, apps, night outs. It's going to it's going to require me to continue ignoring these things so that I can be ready when the person comes my way. Lesson 207. All the rejections I'm getting from the universe is the universe nudging me in the right direction. Lesson 208. When life is tough, you think back and you feel like, man, 80% of my life has been tough. But when life is good, you think back and you feel like 80% of life has been good. So it really shows how your feelings really affect your logical thought. Like when I'm in a good spot, like let's say I'm tapping into a good spot as I'm talking about good things, I'm like, huh, overall net, my life has been pretty good. But let's say 15 minutes ago, as I was tired, I was talking about these tough topics, I was like, man, I've been grinding all year. I've been grinding for the last 2, 3 years. Before that, I'm just seeing all these negative things. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. How like when life is tough, when life is good, it completely changes your perspective on your life as a whole from like being 80% good to 80% bad. And that's a huge change. So it's something that you want to take note of. Lesson 209. When I'm losing faith, right, I think I might actually wrap it here. I think I want to compress these. I'm going to start making these 45 minutes. I do feel like 60 minutes is a bit too long. I feel like 45 minutes is that sweet, listenable spot, especially when you're just hearing one person talk. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Um, see you guys next week. Peace.